The rivalry between the Bruins and the Canadiens in 1992 was intense, and the Bruins took advantage of the intensity. The third game of this series was ugly, but Boston managed to win again 3-2. And the dream season for Pat Burns in Montreal was turning into a nightmare. Montreal's last-ditch effort to overcome a 1-0 deficit in Game 4 fell apart. And just like that, the season was over. All right, well, we'll see if we can avoid that fate. Of course, we already have. We're not going to be swept, at least, but all we need is 3 more wins, and we can move on here in the playoffs. So let's see what we can do here. We'll go ahead and turn the sound back on, and we will resume our saved game. As you can see, the series here is tied 1-1. So let's see if we can't get another win or 2 here today and keep the series going. As you can see on paper, Montreal should be stronger than Boston, but we'll see if that actually translates to anything in game. Meanwhile, I should let you know that I was spending a little bit of time looking around earlier today at the various fan-made, I guess you would call it, homebrew changes to NHL 94. There's a whole ton of them. I know some of you guys already know this. If you're like me, though, and you really only remember the game from when you were, a kid and people used to play it and stuff like that, you might be surprised. But the truth is that we have a lot of stuff to play with if we choose to do so. There are tons and tons of sort of retro ROMs and other things for the NHL 94 game and for the series in general. So there's a lot of stuff that could be fun to play with, a lot of different projects that we can take on. I'm not just talking about the most famous one over the last couple of days, which is the fighting mod that we've seen. I'm talking about people doing total conversion mods, people doing mods to make seasons for the modern NHL and stuff like this. Now, I have to tell you that the last time I played sort of like a 3D version of an NHL game was probably about 2014 or so. I think that was when we had a PlayStation 3. And even then, I didn't really play it that much because I did prefer the older games. But I'll tell you, it's going to be interesting to see what it's like to play some of these and to mess around with it a little bit. I do wonder if it's true that the more modern versions of this game are actually better than the more modern games. So that's something that we can sort of look out for and see. So we'll be able to give that a try and see what we come up with. First of all, though, we need to finish this series. Boy, it would be nice if they scored an own goal for us, but that's not going to happen. Now all we have to do is touch the puck, and that took us long enough. It took us about a whole minute to touch anything. And so we get that interference call, and now we're on the penalty kill. Let's see how we can do. You think we're supposed to dump it in, right? We don't want to dump it in when we are on the penalty kill. We want to attack. Including running into the goalie as hard as we can. Anyway, this, of course, is the Super Nintendo version of this game, not the Genesis version. I actually initially was not necessarily planning on doing a major project with the Super Nintendo version of the game, but my curiosity got the best of me, and so that's kind of what happened here. I decided, hey, let's go ahead and play with this, see what the playoffs are like when we're doing it in best of 7 mode, and we ended up with sort of a story on our hands, and so here we are with a couple more seconds of a penalty to kill, and we're not going to see any highlights from any game, so we'll just go right after it. I wish that there was a way that you would know like right away if it was going to show you highlights or not, instead of having to sit down and wait for a minute or so. But it's all right. It's good for engagement, right? That's what they're trying to do. A little bit of engagement farming on the part of EA. We're going to get called for interference again. That's my bad. It's all right, though. We only have a couple of seconds left of 5-on-3 hockey, and then we have some 5-on-4. And as you've seen, we've been attacking. This is probably what Montreal should have been doing in real life. And here's our man. And we're called for another penalty right away. How about that? So the refs are going a little bit whistle happy here, and now we're kind of giving ourselves a disadvantage here. Alright, so far so good. Just try to sort of wait this one out a little bit. We've had more shots on goal than they have in this 5-on-3 situation that they have in their entire power play that's lasted quite some time now. So you know, maybe we are the stronger team after all. I don't know. There we go, and should just be, no, we're up to full strength now. We probably do need a line change, actually. Almost had, oh crap, that was bad. I say we almost had one of those great line changes where you score a goal right afterwards because the puck just so happens to turn up where you're changing. But we didn't have any such luck. You can see the Boston's starting to get a little bit desperate, sort of throwing up shots from nowhere. But it doesn't really matter. The period's over, and still we have a scoreless game. So it looks like there were some sort of clutch goals being scored, but it's not teeing up any highlights. Here we go. And how about that? So New Jersey goes up 5-4 against Pittsburgh. That looks like a real tense and interesting series. If we can steal away a win here, that would be a great advantage to us. And there we go. There's the goal. I know that this game doesn't let you do a one-timer, but that was about as close as I think you could possibly get. Well, 1-0 Montreal. Now let's see if we can hold on. That's the big question. All right, here we go. We're going to regroup and go for it again. And we've been called for another penalty. This time it wasn't anything I did. I'm not sure what we did there, but it was bad. Another interference penalty. We're leading the world in interference penalties. Every time I turn around, we have another one. So now we have to worry a little bit about trying to kill the penalty. Let's get the puck back first. There we go. There's a key hit right there at the end of that. And now let's go ahead and pass it up here and see if we can do a little bit of run and chase. And we're just giving up an advantage. That's all we're doing. All right, we'll try to waste a little bit more time, just a little bit here. We got very, very close to coming up with a little trick. It didn't quite work, but that wasn't a bad idea. There's your dump and chase. Oh, so close, and yet so far. All right, let's try it again. All right, we have about a minute left, and we've killed the penalty. I'm not sure if it was trying to play like a sound when we killed it or not. Usually you see that happen, but this time we didn't see much of that. We totally wore that line down as much as we possibly could, and so now we'll just try to waste as much time as we can and see if we can't keep the puck down to the other end. 27 seconds left, and this is working pretty well. I just hit the wrong line. That was a mistake. And that does it. So we outlasted them here in game 3, and we have one more game to go. As I told you, we're going to probably do 2 games here. So we end up earning the victory here, 1-0. Meanwhile, New Jersey did beat Pittsburgh 5-4. Minnesota won over Chicago 3-1. And let's see some of this Winnipeg-Edmonton game. A total desperate attack there by Edmonton, is that right? And it ends up backfiring on them, and Winnipeg end up with the 5-3 victory. So there you go. Now, I'll tell you this, before we go into the next game, a little bit of advertisement here, but if you enjoy what you see, please consider supporting the channel a little bit financially. We have channel memberships here, and there's also Patreon. If you go over to Patreon, you can get access to all sorts of old sporting events and stuff, including a huge library of hockey games that I put up, and that is going to continue growing. So consider it. All of the support we can get helps a lot, and you help me so that I can do a better job of doing this and spend a lot more time doing it. So we're going to go straight from that back into the game, and let's play one more. Just in case, we'll save our state here. Hopefully it's going to work. There we go. And let's go for it one more time. So game 4 coming up. We have a 2-1 advantage. And we'll see what we can do here this time around. Hopefully this will be a little bit better game because I'll be in the NHLPA 93 mood. It's really not a bad game here on the Super Nintendo. Again, like when you look at this and you compare it to the Genesis, the first thing you'll notice there is the frame rate issue. But it's not really that bad despite the frame rate problems. It's a pretty good game. It's fun to play, and that's the thing that's most important. And so this is the reason why when you start a project like this, you don't really want to just end it. You want to keep going, because it's that kind of game. Let's keep the puck going, keep the puck in. And we give up the goal. 1-0 Boston, how about that? Neely with the goal. That was probably a line change that was a little bit too long. It was about 1.5 minutes, maybe a little bit more than that, and that may have been part of the problem. All right, let's keep him going. There we go. Now, funny thing about this game, I was just thinking about this, is that after we've played so many games with this, have you even noticed that there's no NHL license, right? I mean, the colors of the... Oh, we do it. That was a mistake, and it was Keane who took advantage of that. That was a real mistake there by their goalie to pass that to the wrong guy. It kind of bounced off of him and went backwards, and we ended up with a fortuitous goal. So we have a 1-1 game, and that's going to be a penalty. I think we might have a guy injured. Nope, no injury, but it is roughing on Bork, so that means that we have an advantage here. We didn't have a single advantage at all in Game 3. Not quite sure what kind of attack that was by them, other than just to waste maybe a little bit of time, something like that. They didn't really get much out of it. Alright, well, let's dump it down here and see if we can do something with it. And yeah, there we had the issue with the line again, so that was another kind of long line change. We've got a couple seconds left here, and not enough time to even skate it down the length of the ice before the period's over. So I haven't really been following these other series. I see New Jersey and Pittsburgh here tied at 2, Winnipeg and Edmonton tied at 4. Let's see if we have a highlight from this last one. Nope. 2-1 Minnesota. We'll go ahead and continue. That's probably not what we wanted to do. I was hoping I could pass back a little bit, and I didn't quite do it right. and that penalty ended right on time. There's so many cool things, by the way, about this game, like the fact that, you know, you can have guys get straight out of the penalty box and go in for the hit right away and stuff like that. It's really, really cool the way that this game is designed. And I mean, the whole series, at least the, I don't know about the more modern versions, but the whole 16-bit series of the NHL games is just like that. And we have a 2-1 lead just like that. We keep not holding on for the face-off. They keep passing it out, of course. Then what do I do is I get a hold of one of these guys on defense, and instead of playing defense, I just have them move out of the way. Probably not the best plan in the world, but it's still working, right? We're still doing better than Montreal did in real life. That's the key. Now, I've been saying before, I've really been saying it the whole series, that, you know, the Genesis version has controls that feel really, really natural. But the thing is that once you get into playing this Super Nintendo version has controls that feel really nice as well. It's not quite as smooth, you know, that's the thing about it. The frame rate, again, is not really as good as it probably could have been and should have been. But it still is a really, really smooth game, and it's a lot of fun to play. As I've said before, you really do feel like you're in control. You feel like there's a lot of stuff you can do in this game, even though maybe it's technically not even part of the game, you know, like the timers and stuff like that. You feel like you can get it to work. You feel like, you know, the controls are exactly what they need to be. And, you know, after you play a couple games, you feel like you know how to do just about everything. Now, whether you can do it well or not is another question. And I would assume that that sort of comes with time. But it's a really well-designed game once you get into it. Again, it reminds me a lot of some of the real classic games. You know, I talk a lot about like Tecmo Super Bowl on the NES, for example. This game reminds me a lot of Tecmo Super Bowl, not in terms of like the graphics, but in terms of like the control that you have as a player over the game and sort of the things that you can do with the game. That's, I think, a real key here to the success that EA had with this title. Let's see what's happening over in that Frozen series out there. Looks like Winnipeg goes up again. So Winnipeg having a heck of a series. We're hoping here to have a heck of a series in Game 4. If we can hold on to a victory here, that would be excellent. Would put us in good position. And we'll see what happens. Not the best pass in the world, but it's all right. Doesn't have to be. Go all the way back and get it. So icing it is, and now we have 3.5 minutes left. If we can just hold on to this, we'll be fine. I've been talking a lot recently about the cold, and that was, I think, a mistake on my part. Really, really bad hit, and that'll give us a penalty. I've been talking a lot about the cold that we've been feeling here in Virginia. This morning, though, is the coldest of the mornings. It is so cold outside, it's kind of unbearable, almost unbelievable how cold it is. I mean, it was, I think, in the single digits Fahrenheit. So, you know, again, if you're in Canada, that might not seem like much, but out here, that's really, really cold. And, of course, this part of the world is not really designed for that type of cold. We still have all of the snow that we got, you know, a week ago. It's all still there, and there's a layer of ice on top of it that's caused it to turn into something that feels like concrete. Part of the problem is that the snowmelt that they use up here is not really designed for these kind of temperatures, right? It's so... oh, shoot. Ha! That was an own goal. That was a complete own goal and a mistake. So 2-2, this series is not over yet. But yeah, it's an absolute nightmare there outside, that's for sure. It means it's good hockey weather, right? It's good weather to sit inside and to play some of the old NHL series. All right, there's got to be something we can do here. missed his guy. Ended up running just straight into the boards there. Fortunately, we have one of the best goalies, if not the best goalie in the league. And we'll make people upset by knocking in afterwards. So Winnipeg ends up winning that game. Let's see if Pittsburgh can come back in this one. What a shot. What an amazing shot that was. That was incredible. So 5-3, New Jersey with the win. Let's see if Minnesota can come back. And now they can't, so it's bad news for the North Stars. And all right, we'll keep going here into overtime. Dump it in and grab it. There you go, pick it up. And it's going to be a penalty on us, unfortunately. Holding, and I guess if you watch that closely, you could probably see the holding. I do think that we kind of pinned him up against the boards or something for a little while there. So now if we're going to score, it's going to end up being a short-handed goal. Or we're going to do that. So we lose this game. We lose this game in spectacular fashion, and that'll tie the series at 2 games each. I definitely did not intend to do that, and that's one of those mistakes that can pop up, I think, from time to time. And so there you go. We've managed to lose that one in spectacular fashion, a game that we really should have won. So we'll take another look here. I'm going to save the state right there. New Jersey won its series. Winnipeg probably ended up beating Edmonton, and then we'll see what happens with this Minnesota-Chicago series. And as for us, well, you know, I'm not sure what to say about all of that. So hopefully you enjoyed that. We're going to have at least 2 more games of this series, and I'll figure out next time what to do for an introduction. So thanks for coming along with me, and we'll have more good stuff for you pretty soon. Bye-bye.